We've had a lot of leaders, coaches, great communicators, and inspiring motivational people. Now we get Rebecca Tillett, who's the head coach at St. Louis, and she has a story to share with us that is absolutely going to blow you away. Rebecca, I have admired you for a long time, because if you can win at Longwood and take a team to the NCAA, and you can win at St. Louis and take a team to the NCAA, and then win what you did this year, which you're going to share with us, you know how to coach, which means you know how to lead people and you know how to inspire. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you so much for having me, Debbie. And anytime we have a conversation, I take something away from it that I end up sharing with our women or using in inspirational conversations later in the day. So I just appreciate you so much and all you've done for women's basketball, Special Olympics, all of it.
Yeah, well, we're here for Special Olympics today, and you have a story to share with us about your family. Before we get into your basketball career, let's hit that first, because that's the most important thing that we're going to talk about today is your family.
You know, it's so interesting when you reached out, to have this conversation. I remembered back even to my parents taking us to Special Olympics events, as they were both educators and teachers. And so we ended up at Special Olympics events. And I thought back, wow, I haven't thought about that particular influence on my life in a really long time, and how much it has impacted how I lead and how I navigate life, and how we've navigated the challenges with our son. So our son, Jack, allows me to tell his story. He always says, if it'll help one other person, then it's worth telling the story. And so in 2017, Jack was diagnosed with PANDAS, pediatric autoimmune neuropsychiatric disorder associated with strep. And like many moms of children with any special need, right, you spring into action and you try to figure out, okay, what do I need to learn about this condition? How can I help? What physicians can help? What services are out there to support? What activities can support our child? And our son has been through it, and we're still in the mix of fighting for his health and his quality of life. And he remains determined. He promised me if we made it to the WNIT final that he would come, and our team did, and he came. And there's actually a picture of him coming up on the ladder with me and cutting down the net. That his symptoms, right, make daily life very, very difficult for him right now. And we're working so hard to find the next treatment that will get him more quality of life.
The more we can talk about PANDAS, the more it's interesting to me, because it seems like it's such a simple thing that we take for granted. A little strep throat, we take a kid to the doctor, and we think that we've taken care of the symptoms, and then something else creeps up. And your instincts are what I'm so impressed about, is that you knew that something wasn't right.
We did. And I think, goodness, the moms and dads in the PANDAS community, right, formed this galvanized group of people. I remember the first call I had with a mom, and she said, listen, we're a fierce community of, families that are working, to help their children. I think for Jack's symptoms, right, that might present so differently than anyone else with strep throat. At this point, the research at Stanford is significant. Columbia is studying this and, trying to figure out what is the biomarker that can, determine how to get great treatment for these, kids in their process. And Jack's been at the battle now for a really long time. And his symptoms include, severe OCD, anxiety. Food comes into play with how they interact with food and what's safe for them to eat. And so it really impacts schooling, social relationships, the ability to leave the house.
It's overwhelming at times, right? I mean, because I know we have different situations with our families, but there are some similarities to how we go about trying to manage normal life for your other kids as well. And you have found an incredible balance that I admire. Tell a little bit about what your day's kind of like with Jack, and then with your team and everything else that you're doing.
Yeah. So I think for Jack right now, his schedule's flipped based on his symptoms. So he's up more of the night than he is during the day. So our interactions, right, really are centered around morning and evening, when he's still awake, and then when he's mostly sleeping when I'm at work, with that schedule flip. He's got two incredible siblings who know a lot about his condition and are, just they love him and protect him. And there's actually a really good memory after one of the treatments he received in January this year. There was a period of time with some relief, and his sisters took him to the Drake concert. And so I have that picture, right? Like those moments where we can get him feeling good enough to have a good moment with his siblings that in everyday life, right, you just take for granted. And then in terms of our team, along this journey, one of our former leaders on our team said to me, you know, they call me Tillett. Tillett, you gotta share more with us. Like we see you're advocating, we see how much you work for Jack, and we admire it, and we want to know about it so we can be a part of it. And that was a big moment for me because I think with pandas especially, there's some stigma around it. There's some people just don't even know anything about it. So they don't know how to respond or how to help or what to say. And so that was a moment of me saying, no, open up and share the story. And that actually allows people to support you. And then one other moment, I think on my hardest days, what I tend to do is go in those pandas groups, and there's always someone new posting, like, what do I do? My child was just diagnosed, or I think my child might need to be diagnosed. And just offering, some positive encouragement and words or lessons that I've learned along the way, that helps me stay, motivated on the hard days.
I'm with you on that. Like, not everything goes our way, right? Because as professionals, we have a whole other world that people may not even recognize. We've created a lot of awareness around Special Olympics because of our event and how successful it has been based on the number of people that have been impacted by the money that comes in, because the money goes right to help the athletes. And I call it not a donation or a gift. I call it an investment. I mean, to me, you're investing in Special Olympics because it goes right to the people. I'm not building brick and mortar and putting some roof over a construction site. I am actually helping the players, because that's what we've done our whole careers, right? We've helped players. We've been players. We've been teammates. Now you're in a position where you're not just leading young women, you're helping them excel at the highest level based on the number of championships that you've won in a short time, Rebecca. Like, it's amazing when you consider what you're dealing with your 3 kids and being a mom, and I've got 3 kids and we've got a special situation. You've got one. Doesn't matter how old they are. It's still, you've still got the same perspective on what we're doing. Tell a little bit about how you've been able to, in a short time, do what you've done, and don't be humble about it because it's very impressive.
Well, thank you. I think, the biggest question I'm getting asked these days is, how is the team playing its best at the right time consistently over and over again, even if there's pitfalls or hardships early on in the season? And I think so much of that is the investment in one another and figuring it out together. And if you truly can get the group to believe that we can figure it out, more and more will come at us throughout the course of a season or throughout the course of a lifetime, right? But if we're determined to lean on one another, you mentioned teammates, like, to me, that's one of the highest words, right? Like, obviously mom is so important to me, family member, coach, and then teammate, like being a great teammate to somebody in whatever role that is in your life. So teaching the team how to be teammates. And this year was especially significant because we felt like we got on the right path in the A10 tournament, and then had a really traumatic injury and almost found a way to the finals and didn't, and then got that opportunity to go to the WNIT and just kept getting better until the very final buzzer, playing against Minnesota. And we're able, for us as leaders, it's look at the people that you're working with, and we've gotten to experience so many great things in our life, but seeing it through the eyes of them for the first time, every time winning a championship, like, I hope I always get to feel that, like, look at it through their eyes of what they just accomplished together.
We're talking about team. We're talking about a lot of concepts here, and you're exactly right. What we're trying to do as good teammates is make things easier for others. So you're, as a team member, like in basketball, I always say, cut hard, run the floor hard, set a really good screen on an angle, all the things that are on the stat sheet that make your team better and make the game easier for your teammates. In Special Olympics, we're doing the same thing. If there was someone out there that was kind of on, teetering onto as to whether they want to make an investment in what we're doing, What would you say to them about why Special Olympics would be so powerful for them to get involved in?
You know, I think all of us, when we have the opportunity to nurture or care for another human being, it's innately in us to do that. And in this case, you get to do it, and the smiles, the enjoyment, the camaraderie that's developed when you give to Special Olympics. And if, you know, I've had the opportunity, right, to watch athletes in those moments, and they are just that, athletes competing and creating those memories. I think it's just such a beautiful opportunity to give, and you're making a difference. And when you lay your head down at night, you go, I made a difference for somebody else today.
That is very well stated. And thank you again for doing this with us, Rebecca. We love having you on, and thank you for sharing your story about Jack and your family. You've brought a lot of awareness to pandas, and we're grateful for your time.
Thank you so much, Debbie. Appreciate everything. Donate.